Hey, this is Joe Gilder from PreSonus, and today we're going to talk about 3 ways to become a better producer. Okay, before we dive in, I've got a quick announcement. Tonight, I'm doing a live stream training for PreSonus Sphere members where I'm going to dive deeper into these production topics and show some behind-the-scenes looks at some different sessions that I've produced using the strategies we're going to talk about here today. If you are a Sphere member, join us tonight. If you're seeing this in the future, you can access the recording inside the members area underneath the exclusive videos section where you'll find all of our past live streams plus all the exclusive videos that we post every month. If you're not a PreSonus Sphere member, now might be a good time to join. You get access to Studio One Pro, Notion, all the Studio One add-ons, plus all this exclusive training that we do every month. If PreSonus Sphere doesn't make sense for you, I totally understand. That's completely fine. That's why we still do all this great content here on YouTube as well. Now, some people get upset that we do exclusive training for Sphere members, but it is what it is. You can join if you want. If you don't, that makes sense too. Okay, let's dive into some production stuff. So I love really every aspect of making music in a home studio, from the songwriting to the performing to the recording to even the editing, mixing, mastering, the whole deal. But the part of the puzzle that I love the most is producing. So in my head, what I mean by producing is really everything that happens from here's a song to it's ready to mix. So that includes recording, but it's so much more than that. In my head, recording is one thing. That's technique, strategy on how to get good sounds out of the thing you're trying to record. Producing is what do I record? Meaning, what instruments do I record? What parts do I record? Things like deciding on the arrangement of the song, the tempo of the song. Is it going to repeat the chorus at the end or not? All of these decisions I love to make, and especially the decisions that just kind of happen in real time as you sit down with the skeleton of a song and you start reaching for instruments and see what works. So that's what I'm talking about when I say producing. I know that word can be a little bit vague. That's what I mean. And so the tips I'm going to share with you, the 3 different strategies, are all with that in mind. Okay? All right, the first strategy is crescendo your songs. Here's what I mean. If you know how to read music, even if you don't, you've seen the little alligator mouth on sheet music, right? Which means crescendo. It means you're playing softly, now get louder. You should have the same approach to the songs you produce. Not in a formulaic way where they all follow the same formula, but this idea of the song it starts in one place and goes somewhere else. So you can some songs sound really great if they start with just a guitar and a vocal, and by the end it's this big full band thing with an orchestra. Or perhaps it's a more stripped down band at the beginning, and then it grows and you add things as you go. Where I'm coming from with this, I've critiqued lots of songs over the years for people, and one of the big mistakes I see people make is they've got the recording thing pretty good. They know how to get good tones on the guitars and things like that. But if I listen to their song, and if I was to just click around the song, let's say it's 4 minutes, and I go and listen at 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then the last 30 seconds, a lot of times it sounds exactly the same. It's the same 2 guitars, drums, and bass, and vocals. It's the same 4 chords. There's just a lot of sameness happening. Our job as producers is to create something that people want to listen to. Now, yes, it needs to be a good song and a good performance, but also a good production is going to keep people interested. Okay? So one of the ways to do that, this isn't the only way, but it's worked really well for me over the years, is to start with a good foundation and then add on to it as we go. Create this kind of crescendo. Another way to think about it would be make it into like a W. So maybe the song starts really big, right? Big, huge intro. Here's the top of the beginning of the W. Then it comes down. And maybe the first verse is pretty stripped down. And then it's back up. We're in the first chorus, and it feels pretty good. Then maybe we pull back a little bit. Maybe it's like a lopsided W. We pull back a little bit for that verse, and then we take off for the final chorus, and then the bridge and the chorus, it just gets bigger and bigger. You can do a lot of ups and downs. I'm not saying you can't have dynamics. That's obviously a great way to add interest to your productions. But if you find yourself where each section sounds a lot of the same, then maybe it's time to think about 2 things. First of all, take something away earlier in the song, Secondly, add some things later in the song. Now, it doesn't have to be huge numbers of things. It can literally be from the verse to the chorus, you add a tambourine. That can add so much of a lift to that chorus without you changing anything else. Okay? Those are the kind of changes I'm talking about. Now, if you want to go hog wild and start off with 20 tracks and end with 80 because you just found all these cool synth patches and guitar parts and create, you 18 tracks of background vocals, go for it. I love doing stuff like that. That's not necessary either, but having some sort of progression where the song starts in one place and ends somewhere else is a great way to make that song interesting for the listener. Okay? All right, second rule, use panning buckets. I don't know why, but I'm a big fan of using the bucket analogy when I talk about things like whether this is a disgusting track. It's cute, right? Biltong. You ever had biltong? It's like South African beef jerky. It's incredible. And very chewy. Anyway, think about when you're producing. Okay, well, let me put the trash can down. Think about panning. Now, when do you typically think about where you're going to pan stuff? Usually when you're mixing, right? Okay, this goes up the middle, this goes to the left, this goes to the right. For the sake of this discussion, let's just assume there are 3 panning positions, right up the middle, hard left, and hard right. Okay, we can argue about that another day. But usually you don't think about panning, or at least I didn't, for a long time until I sat down to mix. But I've discovered over the years, it makes a lot more sense to think about panning during the recording session while I'm producing the song and not only when I'm mixing. Here's what I mean. Let's say I grab my guitar and I record something awesome. And I say, that's a great part. My very next question in my head is, okay, I like that. Where's it going to go? Meaning, is it going to go left, middle, or right? In other words, I got 3 buckets. I got the left bucket, the middle bucket, the center bucket, and the right bucket. Where am I going to put I don't want a trash can in my face. Where am I going to put that guitar? Which bucket is it going to go into? If it's going to go in the middle, that's great. That's fine. If it's going to go in the right bucket, then I have to think, okay, now it's lopsided. There's something in the right. I need to put something in the left to get it back balanced. That could mean just record another acoustic guitar part, maybe just a double of what I just recorded and pan them left and right. It's a valid solution. It could be, I don't want another acoustic guitar, but I'm going to add a Wurlitzer part on the keyboard. That's going to go over here to balance things out. Or there's an electric guitar part that's similar to what this guitar is playing, but it's on electric, and that would balance it well. The options are unending, but the idea of balance is very simple. If you put something left, you really ought to put something right to balance it out. I'm not saying it has to be a mirror image or a double, because that can get boring, but there needs to be something over here to balance out that volume difference that you get if you just have one guitar over here on the right, okay? So think about panning in your productions, and then when you go to mix, things will already be panned in pretty cool places. You can always move them later, but everything you record is going to have a little more balance to it. If you bring in this super killer guitar part and you don't want it up the middle because you need some things on the side in the productions, that's going to trigger you to say, well, if I do move that to the left, maybe I could, let me grab that cool, like really gritty organ patch and put that to the right so I have something to balance it out. It's going to make you produce better because you're thinking in terms of balance versus just recording a bunch of stuff and saying, we'll figure out the panning later. You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of when you record stuff that sounds bad and you say, we'll just fix it in the mix. Don't ever fix it in the mix. Just fix it now. Make it great now. And then when you mix, you'll be really thankful. You'll thank your past self for doing such a good job in the production phase that the mixing phase is just a breeze. Okay, thing number 3 is something I call the verse 2 rule. This goes along with the first thing we talked about, which was crescendo your songs. This is where a lot of times, verse 2 to me, when I'm producing a typical song, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, that kind of thing. Verse 2 to me is one of the best opportunities to do something really interesting. And a lot of people miss out on that opportunity because they make verse 2 sound exactly like verse 1. So if verse 1 is jing, 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 jing on the guitar, and drums and bass are following suit, then they'll make verse 2 jing, 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 exactly the same. Now I've done this. I'm thinking of a song in particular where I pretty much did that. But most of the time, I'm trying to make verse 2 be different from verse 1. If it sounds sonically identical and the only thing that changes is the vocal lyric, it's not great. It's kind of boring. I get to the verse 2 in the song and I think, I've already heard this. I've done that before. I'm listening. Verse 1, good. Chorus, cool. Verse 2, oh, it sounds just like the verse 1. I've heard this before. It's not like that's a terrible, terrible bad thing, and you can probably tell me plenty of professional examples and famous records that do just that. But I found I have a lot of fun trying to make verse 2 different. Doesn't have to be vastly different, but it could be you introduce a new instrument. It could be you change the rhythm up, or you go to like a halftime thing on the drums and then get into the full groove later on. It could be just, like I said, that tambourine before. It's along the lines of crescendoing things, but specifically, let's make the instrumentation of verse 2 different from verse 1. And there's kind of two ways you can go with that. Verse 1 can be pretty big, and then verse 2 can start off stripped down, and then come back in with the full band that's even bigger than verse 1. That's one way to do it. Or you can do verse 1 a little more simple, and then verse 2 is really where it starts to rock out. Those are two common approaches that I use to make verse 2 different. Now, as like a corollary to the verse 2 rule, I also tend to want the chorus 2 to be different from chorus 1, to be bigger, to add something in. So when I'm first working on a song, and let's say I'm working on the chorus and I want to make it huge, I'll mostly focus on that second chorus, given that this is kind of a typical arrangement. And I'll make that one sound huge. Then I'll go back to the first chorus, to the previous chorus, and say, okay, what can I leave out that makes this chorus still sound great, but leaves us some room to grow for chorus 3 or for chorus 2? And then is there one more thing I can add in chorus 3? So a lot of times, if you listen to my songs, chorus 1 feels big, chorus 2 feels bigger, and then the last chorus is just, I've pulled out all the stops and done everything I can to make it huge. That's the kind of thing that, to me, as a listener, gets me excited. Because it's doing, again, this is kind of, I'm blurring the line between this rule and the crescendo thing. But if you think about it in terms of just verse 2, make verse 2 different from verse 1, that'll get you on a trajectory and give you some momentum that will help you continue that path. Well, I made verse 2 better than verse 1, so how can I make chorus 2 better than chorus 1, etc., etc. Okay, that's it for this video. Again, if you want to join us tonight for the live stream, please do. If not, if you can't make it, the recording will be in the members area for PreSonus Sphere members. Otherwise, at least make sure you subscribe to this channel and hit the like button and the notification bell and all that fun stuff, because between Gregor and myself, we've got a lot of Studio One content yet to come. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
String. Meow.
Whoop.